I brought up in another class the fact that, you know, in our short-term classes, we get through week 1 and then we get into week 2, and actually by the time we get to the end of week 2, we're halfway through the class. In a regular class, you would sort of take it easy those first few weeks, you know, maybe just have a few things to turn in. But, you know, to get 3 credit hours, we have to get a certain amount of work out of you in that 4 weeks time. So that's why it can seem very, very busy. So I want to tell you guys, good job. Keep up the good work. Keep getting assignments turned in. I wanted to bring up a little bit about week 3. I want to hop forward just a little bit because you have a different assignment in week 3. Instead of having a quiz, you're going to do an assessment is what it's titled as. And I want to give you a quick heads up on it because you actually need to begin this on about Monday. So be sure and read through this assignment. Here I put a little bit about it. Your assessment this week is going to be an assignment for you to complete during the following week. I want you to attempt active listening for the entirety of the next week as defined on page 217 in Family Staff Relations Reading. So what you're going to be doing is just really paying attention. Hi, Kyle. Paying attention to how you react with people, paying attention to how you answer questions. And kind of an interesting thing, I came across a new word that I didn't know. And let me see if, now I'm going to forget it. It's called phubbing. Have you guys ever heard of phubbing? It's P-H-U-B-B-I-N-G. You're going to make me feel old if everybody says they know what it is. But so far, nobody's brought it up. So phubbing is phone snubbing. It's when you're on your phone talking to someone, but you're not really paying attention to them, right? You've probably done it before. Maybe someone's having a conversation with you and you're checking your email. You could be doing it to me right now and I don't even know. I'm having this incredible live lecture giving this wonderful information and you could be on your phones, couldn't you? I know you are. And where's mine? It's right next to me. So anyway, what they've discovered is that we do this quite a bit now. It's out of habit. That if we hear that little ding go off on our phone, that we've had an email come through, we've had a text message come through, that we'll just completely bring ourselves out of the conversation that we're having to glance at that phone. So now you know what phubbing is. And I want you to pay attention to your interactions this week because we're talking about active listening. And you really have to think about it to do it, okay? So read through the directions. Be very aware of how you conduct yourself and respond to others. Each day, I want you to journal about the day and how you were able to actively listen or how you failed at actively listening. So, what your voice is an instructor's voice easily to transcribe. Okay, so I don't even know what you mean, Marilyn. What do you mean? I just gotta know. Oh, and there's Jasmine too. Hi, Jasmine. While Marilyn's responding to that, I gotta tell you my voice really gets on my nerves, Marilyn, so I hope it's not bad. Learning is easily understood and active listening with you. Well, I love that then. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you. Yes, you've got to hook people in. You've got to get their attention, keep their attention, but I've had this happen before in a classroom before where maybe you feel like you're doing this amazing lecture and you've got half the class looking at their phones. And I've had the same thing happen in teachers' meetings as well. If it was a long teachers' meetings, maybe I've got somebody up front giving a presentation. I sat in the back of the room one time and I noticed all these instructor phones started to come out, kind of one by one. And it's almost as if someone sees someone else do it, then it's okay for them to do it too. It's sort of this herd mentality. So pretty soon, a lot of them were checking emails. So, okay, your active listening assignment, you don't have to have active listening examples for the entire day. I would like for you just to have one or two for each day. So you don't have to remember every time you communicated with someone else. But I want you to actively think about examples of when you did good and when maybe you did bad. Because we all do it. It's okay to fess up to that. So a paragraph about the day's events for each day, how you reacted, should do for each day of the week. Your journal should start on Monday and go to Friday. So you're going to have 5 days. And then the last thing is, don't forget the live lecture summary if you miss live lecture. So those of you that are watching this recording, be sure and submit a 250-word summary with information from the beginning, from the middle, from the end. I want to know that you watched the whole thing. Okay? All right. So go to week 3 when you have a chance and read through that active listening assignment so that you're ready to go. It's the main thing. All right, student question of the week. This is a really good question. Oh, you're having surgery, Desiree. Oh, no. I'm so sorry. It may be interesting. You may have to have someone else record for you, right? Well, anesthesia. I'm sorry. I'll be thinking about you that day, okay? Student question of the week. Can I change my externship date? Now, here's the thing. The answer is actually yes, tentatively most of the time. It's almost a yes or no. It depends on what classes you're taking, what order they are offered in, if you're in strictly ECE classes, or if you're going on to associate's courses. So there's a lot of things to consider. However, I've got a student right now that we're rearranging with, no problem. And what she's going to do is instead of, we automatically set up externship for right after your final ECE class, whether you're an ECE diploma student or an ECE AOS student. So we automatically set it for right then. Well, I have a student that's going to be having a baby around that time, yay! And you know who you are, and needs to move externship from one date to the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to bump her externship to the end of her AOS courses. Hi, Brittany. So just know that it can be done, that we will work with you, but sometimes we may not be able to get it for the exact date you want, you know. So, but it is possible, and the important thing is planning ahead. Right, Brittany? It's planning ahead and realizing what's coming up in your next year. And, you know, if externship is really not going to work for you during that specific month, then contact me and we'll start the process of trying to work with that, okay? It's a very good question, it is. Okay, tonight, creating developmentally appropriate classrooms. We're carrying on with our information on DAP, developmentally appropriate programs or classrooms. And this is just kind of a review of a little bit of the information we covered last time. Remember, when we consider developmentally appropriate practices, we consider the child or the individual first at the center. Let me get my pointer out. I'll use my smiley face tonight. We consider the individual first, the specific child. Then we go on to how old are they? Where should they be developmentally? And then we go on to how are they developing socially and culturally? What type of town do they live in? What state do they live in? What neighborhood do they live in? And something that comes to mind for me on this is I remember back in, I think it was the 90s, there was a big thing on a test question, a school standardized test, that was concerning bus fare. It was about making change for bus fare. And they were like, hey, kids in little towns know nothing about buses. How can they even relate to this question? So they were finally, with much time and money, they finally got that one question changed so that it would go more to a broader spectrum. So we have to look at all of those things with a child: individual, age, social and cultural area. Okay, this may get boring in parts. I'm just going to warn you ahead. But bear with me, because the one that you're going to understand is coming on the next slide. I know, right, Kyle? Developmentally appropriate practice, or DAP, involves providing learning environments, instructional content, and pedagogical practices that are responsive to the major attributes and salient needs and interests of a given life period in order to facilitate continuing developmental progress. How is that for a sentence? Goodness. That one always blows me away. In other words, DAP is an approach to teaching grounded in the research of how young children develop and learn. So that's our main focus. How do they develop and learn? This is the main thing that came out of that monster sentence. Developmentally appropriate practice. It's important that you realize, and sometimes I get this mixed up in my head as well, but developmentally appropriate practice is not a type of curriculum. It's really more of a guideline for what makes a curriculum developmentally appropriate. So it's almost a way of judging a curriculum. So teachers use this set of guidelines to help them make sound decisions. And a big decision you may have to make if you're running your own ECE center is what type of curriculum are we going to use? In some centers, teachers may actually choose specifically what curriculum they want to use for their classroom. In other centers, a curriculum may be chosen that's used throughout all of the classrooms. So it really just depends on where you're teaching. So DAP is not a curriculum, it's more of a guideline, right? Very important. According to NAEYC, you're going to see these abbreviations quite a bit, definitely throughout our textbooks. National Association for the Education of Young Children, great organization. The goal of early childhood education, helping each child be ready to learn when he or she enters school, has not been fully realized. So making sure every child is ready before they enter school has not been realized. So why do you think that's so? Why do you think we have kids that aren't ready for pre-K or ready for kindergarten? There's going to be lots of different reasons, but just give me a few. Their parents don't work with them. That is one thing, Patty, you're right. Maybe they're a little too young. That's a good one, Kyle, because, you know, depending on what month of the year you were born in, that can make a difference. Maybe child shy. That's right, Jessica. Maybe mentally impaired. They don't do well separated from their moms or dads. Sarah, that's right. Some children don't. mentally younger than their actual age. That can totally happen. Communication, and you know, Marilyn, I see that a lot with shy children, which was brought up before, that they just can't communicate their needs with their teachers very well too. And I mean simple needs down to, you know, I need to go to the bathroom, or, you know, I need a new pencil. There's a way of children needing to step out of their box, and you know, sometimes those kids need an extra year as well, because we all, remember, develop at different paces. Fear can definitely be one, Patty. Very good. Expression. Every child has a different way of expressing their intelligence, right, Teresa? So you can see that, you know, we do not have cookie cutter kids that at the age of 5 they are automatically ready doing. That just can't happen because there's too many variables. So here's another barrier for DAP. Economic goals for schooling place pressures on schools to teach more and more cognitive material to younger and younger children. And think about that for just a moment. You may have personal examples of it as well. So what have you seen where we have younger and younger children expected to do cognitive material such as math and writing and reading at a younger and younger age? Have you seen this? Maybe in your kids, maybe in your grandkids. In your children, Patty? Yeah. Oh, good example, Kyle. Yes, the 3rd grade test. Exactly, the reading test that they have to pass in order to move on to 4th grade, yeah. Sarah, they do a lot more testing in elementary school now. They really do. And you're exactly right, it does cause more stress. They're learning more in 1st grade than I did in 6th. You know, Patty, probably not, but there could be some things I actually agree with there. Yeah, exactly. So we're pushing these young children to be more academic. And we're seeing different things from other countries and for other educational approaches that are saying, you know, what maybe we really need to do is step back and let them play and discover a little more early on, and having more free time as opposed to sitting in seats and working on worksheets, right? Because we know a 5- and a 6-year-old just isn't built to sit in a chair for a long amount of time. And I see that quite a bit in grade schools. They're having less recess time. They're having less PE time too. Oh, that's okay, Brittany. And Marilyn, that may have been, wasn't it Desiree that mentioned she was having surgery? Maybe that was it. So there's lots of examples of both of these. Right, early conversation. So developmentally appropriate practice. There's a few reasons why we see some barriers here. I want to bring up a statement from a professor that I had at NSU. This was in the 90s. She said if we didn't formally teach reading until about the 2nd grade, that we would have hardly any reading disorders or reading problems. She strongly felt that that if we would wait to teach that process, our kids would be able to pick it up easier and they would experience less frustration. So I really hope that we'll see a little bit of change in that area in the future. Maybe that will catch on, although this was in the 90s when she said that too. And we seem to be going the opposite direction. but our state is finally taking some steps at doing away with some of these tests. So I am all for that. Some of the key aspects of the teacher's role in DAP, and we talked about this a little bit last time too, that they no longer teach cursive in school. Patty, you know what? Some schools don't. Some schools do. My children were taught in 3rd and 4th grade, but by the time they were in junior high, it was optional. And you see almost every kid go back to printing. They would rather print than write in cursive. I also have a nephew that's in college. He's 20 years old, and his grandmother sent a birthday card to him, and she wrote in it in cursive, and he had to hand it to his mom to read it to him because he really couldn't even read cursive. Now, they do sign their names, so usually they'll get enough that they'll use that cursive for signing their names. But it's actually true, so it's kind of becoming a thing of the past. And part of it, too, is that so many of the kids now in school type up their assignments on the computer just like you guys do. I know at Broken Arrow they do online type courses with their high school students. So isn't that interesting? It's, you know, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. It is. Okay, key aspects: creating a caring community of learners. We want to have a safe environment. Teaching to enhance development and learning in each individual child. We do this by having small classrooms. Planning curriculum to achieve important goals. Assessing children's development and learning in different ways. We know there's very many different ways. It doesn't have to be a test. And establishing reciprocal relationships with our families. So tonight we're going to talk about connecting with our families. And Kyle, what did you say? That's how my children are. They cannot read or write in cursive. A lot of websites are going to electronic signatures. That's true. That's true. Exactly. Who knows where we'll be in 10 years? It's kind of interesting. Making decisions in a developmentally appropriate way. Teachers can make decisions with the following key points in mind. Again, we're going to go back to that sunshine type figure that we saw at the beginning of the lecture. The age appropriateness of the child, which is kind of our base, but it's not set in stone. Individual appropriateness, how are they doing developmentally specifically, and social and cultural appropriateness. Does it truly match this child? If we look at child-centered instruction, again, this is going to go back to the idea of small classrooms and a lower teacher-to-child ratio. What we're seeing in the next year in Oklahoma, however, is more kids in the classroom, fewer teachers. I believe the number that I saw for kindergarten was 26 to 1 teacher. And I don't know if you've ever tried to control 26 5-year-olds, but it's insane. It's going to be a tough year. So we want to go the opposite direction, and you see this in some ECE centers that are able to set their own numbers a lot lower. So we want to use small group organization. We want to use activity centers that the children may be able to use on their own. Project-based learning, so they're going to complete a project maybe through the day or through the course of the week. Provisions for student choice. We don't want them to have to participate in a certain activity. We want to give them an option just in case they truly do not want to do another specific activity, or maybe they're just not interested in it. We don't want to force them to do an activity they don't want to do, is what it comes down to. Then you get into butting heads. Joint teacher-student planning of learning activities, so you can get input from the students about their interests by talking to them, and integration of content. Oh, you have to go pick up your daughter. That's okay, Jasmine. Be sure to watch the rest of the lecture in recording. Okay? and have a good week. Okay, individual differences and developmental domains. Let's look at why each child is truly different and a special snowflake, which they are, right? We have lots of special snowflakes out there. I love them. Individual differences, biological difference, male or female, we learn in different ways and at different rates and different preferred methods as well. Also, genetics. Who is mom and dad? What's their background? Where do their talents lie? Because a lot of this is going into making this a little special human. Psychologically, are they ready? I've seen, especially with pre-K and kindergarten, I see a lot of kids that are sometimes held back because they're not quite ready for it. And you know what? That is perfectly normal and that is perfectly fine. And in doing this early on, you can help set up a child for success later on in their school career. So we'd much rather do that sooner than later. Social-wise, the family that they have, the environment that they're in definitely makes a huge impact. And cultural factors, again, come in with cultural milestones. And you know, in our society, we don't necessarily have a lot of cultural milestones. I mean, it's kind of a big thing when you become a teenager, when you go from 12 to 13. Kind of a big thing when you turn 18 and you're able to vote. You're considered more of an official adult at 18. But some cultures actually celebrate these age changes or these moving on to new parts of life. What is the name for the Hispanic tradition of when you turn 16? Quinceañera, am I saying that right? And that's a big celebration. Oh, at 15, I'm sorry, I had the age wrong. At 15, and that is a huge celebration for this culture, for this child. So in other societies and other cultures, we see this, and we want to embrace that as well. Yes, but I don't know how. I probably wouldn't either. Teresa, you know how to spell it? I'd have to look it up. There we go. And I would not have guessed that as the spelling as well. And I'm guessing, so does kink mean 15? It is complicated. Okay, great. Wow, I made a connection tonight. It can happen. So, and we also look at nature versus nurture. And I know you guys have heard this over the years, and it's always a big debate of whether the differences are innate, as in we are born with certain things, we're born with certain temperaments, personalities, specific talents, or are they learned? So maybe a child is born with more of an easygoing, laid-back personality, but through experience in the environment that they're in, maybe they can become more high-strung, or maybe develop a temper. You know, there's always where did it come from? And you know, I don't think we can ever truly decide on one or the other, because really it comes down to both. That both have an influence on who we are. Nurture and nature is what goes into it. Sometimes more than the other, though. Okay, family involvement. Let's talk about this for a moment. How do we get families involved in the ECE program and in their child's educational journey? I want us to take just a moment to build up a kind of theoretical scenario here. Let's say you are a teacher in a 4-year-old classroom. You're a teacher and you have got your brand new 4-year-old classroom, and you've got a group of students that are coming in and starting their school year, and you really want to focus on getting their families involved as well. So you tell me, what are some of the things that you might do to get your family, your caregivers, to join in, to feel like they are part of the program? I am ready to write. Having a family day. Oh, that's a good idea, Patty. Family day, so it's specifically focused on the family, yes. Introduce yourself, make classroom very welcoming, not only for the children, but for themselves as well. Yes. Be welcoming. I'll put make contact. It's very important that you speak to each family. That's right. Classroom parties. Classroom parties, and you know, these are easy to do in early childhood centers, easier than in public schools. We've had a little bit of a decrease in the number of parties that they can have in grade schools now, even for the major holidays. Oh, that's a good one too, Sarah. A newsletter so that they know what's going on in the classroom. If I can spell right. You know, I think that's the biggest thing when your child goes to school, is not knowing what all they're doing through the day. Maybe you have an idea of what classes they're in because of grade reports that are coming home, or maybe you received a schedule at the first of the year. But to truly know what's happening, a newsletter is a wonderful way to convey that. You can break it down into what you're doing each hour of the day, when recess is, when lunch is, and that gives the parent so much more information. When is reading time? You know, when is group activity time? And that's a fantastic way. Newsletters invite parents to come during class and volunteer and help out. Yes. Volunteer, to me, and it'll depend center to center, but to me, if I were running my own center, I would want parents to know that they can show up at any time during the day, and that's fine. That if they want to be a part of the class in the morning or come for lunch, have lunch with their child, that would be great. And asking for help from your parents is a wonderful way to have them connect, because you will have, I just saw that, lots of parties. Plan a social gathering, display the child's accomplishments. Yes. Accomplishments. Oh my goodness. I wish this said spell check. Awards, or you might put art on the wall as well. As I go along with lectures, I try and incorporate with my daughter what I learn and improve it. Oh, that's fantastic, Teresa. That's fantastic. It's so true. We learn as we go along. Oh, bulletins. Yes, Desiree, I just saw that as well. Bulletin boards to convey information. Tina, our school has an art cell where you go and buy your we used to do that at Joplin too, and I absolutely loved it. And get to talk to the teacher and other teachers and parents. You know, the fun thing apart that was that it was a great fundraiser. It was a fantastic way to get your child's art that they worked on for, you know, maybe a whole week even, and that money then went to the school. Yeah. Oh, hi, Patty, I love that you mentioned social media as well. That can, again, help the parents feel like they're part of the day. Brittany, yes. Field trips in which parents can be volunteers, and literacy kits, because we love those. That's right. Good job. Okay. So you guys, I can already tell, are going to do a fantastic job connecting with your families. You don't want them to feel out there, out in the cold, not knowing what's going on in the classroom, and you want to make this active effort to engage with them, right? So as we just talked, establishing reciprocal relationships with families, mutual respect, cooperation, shared responsibility, negotiating. Please know that your parents are a great resource, your families are a great resource, and sometimes they come up with ideas that you would never have thought of. That's what I love about interacting with my students as well, is that it's another fresh set of brain. So sometimes brainstorming with a student, I can come up with fantastic things that I would not have come up with on my own. Teachers work in collaboration with families as opposed to separately. We don't want that happening. Parents are welcome to the program to participate and discuss decisions about their children. And teachers acknowledge parents' choices and goals and are respectful of the parents' preferences and concerns. So it's all about give and take. It's all about respect. It's all about appreciating each other and working together. And child is the #1 goal there, that they are happy. What was it, Patty? That little boy looks miserable. Let me see. Yeah, he doesn't look real excited about taking that picture, does he? That's funny. Okay, teachers and parents share knowledge of child and continue to communicate. And again, oh my gosh, this is such a wonderful thing when teachers and parents share information, because your child can sometimes be a totally different child at school than they are at home. I remember when my brother went in for his first parent-teacher conference for his middle son, and they started talking about him, and he was like, hey, am I the right parent? I don't even know what kids you're talking about, because at home, my nephew was a wild man. I mean, climbing things, climbing the wall, making messes constantly. And at school, he was this amazing little student. Can you, Kyle? You can relate. He turned into this little Mr. Einstein that was reading out of newspapers way before he should have or could have. Very easy to take care of. Sounds like your son, Tina. Okay. And I don't know why some children do this, but my thinking is always, if they have to pick one place to be wild and crazy, I would rather it be at home. I feel like it's too much stress to expect a child to be good 100% of the time, that they have to let some steam off sometimes. So I was always happy that my children were great little angels at school, right? So a teacher is not going to know this information unless you talk about it and you share with each other. And you know, sometimes those teachers can pass along some of their tips of what they're doing with your child too. Teachers involve families for assessing and planning. Teachers link families to social services when needed. We've got some great programs in Tulsa that reach out to the families, and teachers share information as children move from one program to another year to year. Some programs, the teachers follow the child for 2 to 3 years, so they don't have to get used to a new teacher each year. I really appreciate those types of programs. I think it's a good idea. And lastly, or almost lastly, every teacher needs to improve, not because they're not good enough, but because they can be even better. As a teacher, you're never going to reach a point to where you're like, all right, my classroom is 100% amazing and there's nothing I need to change. Because there's always going to be something different. The information that you're teaching is going to change. The curriculum is going to change. And in fact, in public school, it's really not unusual for you to have a curriculum for a few years, and then maybe the 3rd year you've got something brand new that you rework everything around. So just know that change is inevitable, and as a teacher you have to be flexible and embrace that. And here we go, final slide. Guys, do you have any questions tonight? Do you have any concerns about upcoming assignments? Be sure and take your quiz by Sunday at midnight. Be sure and respond to those on the discussion boards. I've seen a lot of good initial posts so far. Okay, fantastic. You have a good night too, Kyle. Thank you, Sarah. Good night, Miss Brittany. Have a good night. Bye, Patty. Bye, Sarah. Who else? Tina, you're good too. Jessica, see ya. Teresa, bye. Opal, bye. You guys are awesome. You're a great group. You really are.